The spotlight felt warm against my face as I stood behind Stanford's podium, looking out at thousands of red graduation caps. In the VIP section, two empty seats stared back at me like missing teeth in a smile. The programs I'd placed there that morning fluttered in the California breeze. 6 hours earlier, my phone had buzzed me awake. Mom's text glowed in the darkness. Flight delayed from Sylvia's wedding. So sorry, honey. We'll celebrate when we get back. The timestamp read 7:43 a.m. My ceremony started at 10. 22 years of we'll celebrate later, and I finally understood. Later never comes. But standing there, microphone in hand, something shifted inside me. Instead of the safe speech I'd rehearsed about academic excellence and future goals, different words spilled out. Words about resilience. About the empty chairs that teach you more about love than the filled ones ever could. About learning to clap for yourself when no one else will. The crowd erupted. Phones appeared like stars, recording everything. What I didn't know was that Stanford's livestream was broadcasting to 12 million viewers worldwide. Every single one of them saw what my parents chose to miss. By noon, my phone was exploding. Notifications crashed over each other like waves. The video was everywhere: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Headlines screamed, Stanford valedictorian's viral speech about empty chairs. By evening, they were calling. Not to congratulate me, to beg me to take it all back. Angie, people are asking questions. Mom's voicemail trembled. You need to fix this. But I was done fixing things for people who kept breaking them. What they didn't know was that this was just the beginning. Because when the invisible child finally gets seen, the whole world starts watching. If this story already has you feeling something deep in your chest, you're not alone. And what happens next will show you exactly why sometimes the empty chairs are the most important ones in the room. Growing up in the Hart household meant understanding your place in the constellation. Mom, Karen, orbited around appearances, always adjusting, always performing. Dad, Glenn, existed in her shadow, nodding along like a dashboard bobblehead. And at the center of it all was Sylvia, 3 years younger, golden-haired, and effortlessly magnetic. Then there was me, the older sister, the responsible one. The one who didn't need attention because I was so independent. I learned early that love in our house was a finite resource, and Sylvia had claimed the lion's share. When I turned 8, my birthday party was scheduled for Saturday afternoon. That morning, Sylvia's dance teacher called. Emergency rehearsal for her recital. We'll just move your party to next weekend, sweetheart, Mom said, already reaching for her keys. Sylvia's recital is tomorrow. Next weekend never came. That same year, I won the regional spelling bee. The trophy was heavy in my small hands as I searched the auditorium for familiar faces. Empty seats. They were at Sylvia's dance recital across town, the same one that had stolen my birthday. Oh, Angie's always been so independent, I heard Mom tell Mrs. Peterson next door. She doesn't need the attention like Sylvia does. But I did need it. I just learned not to ask. My bedroom wall told the story. Sylvia's participation ribbons hung in neat rows, each one framed and labeled. My outstanding student certificate from 4th grade sat in a drawer, never making it to display. When I asked Mom about hanging it up, she said, "Of course, honey," then got distracted by Sylvia's costume fitting. The pattern crystallized when I was 12. My birthday fell the same week as Sylvia's 8th grade graduation. We'll celebrate you next weekend, became the family motto. But next weekend, Sylvia had a dance competition. The weekend after, she had a sleepover. My birthday cake finally appeared 3 weeks late, store-bought, with happy birthday in generic blue frosting. I stopped expecting cake after that. School became my sanctuary. Numbers didn't play favorites. Test scores didn't have golden hair or perfect pirouettes. When I brought home straight A's, Dad would nod approvingly. "That's our scholar," he'd say, then immediately ask Sylvia about her day. The bank records I found years later told the real story. The same month, Mom said, "Money's tight for my academic summer camp. $250. They spent $3,000 on new dance equipment for Sylvia. Costumes, shoes, private lessons. The math was simple. I wasn't worth the investment. Only Grandma Carol saw through the family theater. She lived 20 minutes away but felt like a different universe. Her house smelled like vanilla candles and acceptance. She kept my school photos on her mantle, not just the family portraits where I stood slightly behind everyone else. "Sweetheart, needing love isn't weakness," she told me one afternoon when I was 14, helping her fold laundry. "It's human." "But Mom says I'm independent," I replied, creasing a pillowcase with mathematical precision. Independence forced on a child isn't strength, Angie. It's survival. The breaking point came junior year of high school. I'd worked for months on my Stanford application, staying up until midnight perfecting essays, gathering recommendation letters, dreaming of escape. When the acceptance letter arrived, full scholarship, early admission, I burst into the kitchen, hands shaking with joy. I got in. Stanford, full ride. Mom looked up from Sylvia's college brochures spread across the table. "That's wonderful, honey. Did you hear Sylvia made varsity cheerleading? We're so proud." Dad added his signature nod. "Great job. Kiddo, Stanford's lucky to have you." Then they returned to discussing Sylvia's college prospects, my life-changing moment already forgotten. That night, I called Grandma Carol. She cried happy tears over the phone, asked about my major, my dorm preferences, my dreams. For 20 minutes, I was the center of someone's universe. "You're going to change the world, sweetheart," she whispered. I was starting to believe her. Stanford felt like stepping into sunlight after years in shadow. For the first time, I wasn't Sylvia's sister. I was just Angie, pre-med student, research assistant, future doctor. The palm trees swayed like they were welcoming me home. But even 300 miles away, the family dynamics followed me like a persistent echo. Freshman year, I sent weekly emails home. Photos of my dorm, updates about classes, excitement about joining the biomedical research lab. Mom's responses grew shorter each month. "Sounds great, honey. Sylvia got led in the community theater production?" "Nice dorm room. Did you see Sylvia's Instagram from her spring break trip?" "Proud of you, sweetie. BTW, can you call Sylvia? She's stressed about her college applications." By sophomore year, I was sending monthly updates. By junior year, it was holidays only. The phone records I later requested told the brutal truth. Senior year alone, Mom and Dad called me 3 times. They called Sylvia 47 times. Each call to me lasted an average of 4 minutes. Sylvia's averaged 23. I threw myself into research instead. Dr. Martinez's lab became my second home, studying cellular regeneration, publishing papers, winning awards. When I won the National Undergraduate Research Fellowship junior year, a $10,000 grant and presentation at the national conference, I called home, breathless with excitement. "Mom, I won! The National Fellowship. I'm presenting my research in Chicago next month." "That's amazing, sweetheart. Hold on 1 second." The line went quiet. I could hear muffled conversation, then Mom's voice, distant. "Sylvia, honey, tell me about the wedding venue again." 5 minutes passed. I hung up. They never asked about the presentation, never asked about Chicago, never asked about the research that was already catching attention from medical schools across the country. But they called Sylvia 3 times that week to discuss centerpiece options. Senior year arrived like a freight train. Medical school applications, MCAT scores, research presentations. I was drowning in deadlines and dreams, working 18-hour days in the lab while maintaining a 4.0 GPA. The Harvard acceptance email arrived on a Tuesday morning in March. Full scholarship, research stipend, early admission to their MD-PhD program. I stared at the screen until the words blurred, then screenshot everything and sent it to the family group chat. "Got the Harvard acceptance, full scholarship plus research stipend, MD-PhD program. Can't believe it." 2 days of silence. Then Mom's response. "Wonderful news. BTW, Sylvia needs help with wedding RSVPs. Can you call her?" Dad's contribution came an hour later. Proud of you, kiddo. That thumbs up emoji felt like a slap. Meanwhile, Sylvia's engagement photos flooded the family chat daily. Mom's responses were novels, paragraphs about dress styles, venue options, guest lists. When Sylvia sent a blurry photo of potential wedding favors, Mom wrote a 300-word analysis of why the lavender sachets were absolutely perfect. My Harvard acceptance got a thumbs up. The pattern reached its peak during my valedictorian announcement. I'd worked 4 years for this moment. Highest GPA in my class, groundbreaking research, acceptance to the most competitive medical program in the country. When the dean called with the news, I immediately dialed home. Mom, I'm valedictorian. I'm giving the commencement speech. Oh, honey, Hold on. Sylvia's calling about the wedding flowers. Can I call you back? She never called back, but she spent 2 hours that night on the phone with Sylvia, discussing whether roses or peonies better match the bridesmaids' dresses. 3 weeks before graduation, I sent personalized invitations to the family. Not just the standard announcement, I wrote individual notes on each one. Mom's read, "Thank you for always believing in me, even when I couldn't believe in myself. Can't wait to celebrate with you." Dad's, "Your quiet support has meant everything. Hope you're proud of what we've accomplished together." Their response came via group text. "We'll be there. So excited. Love you." Generic, impersonal. But it was confirmation. Finally, they would show up. I should have known something was wrong when Sylvia announced her wedding date, the same weekend as my graduation. I should have questioned their silence when I asked about flight details. I should have noticed they never asked about the ceremony time, the location, what I was speaking about. But I trusted that "we'll be there" text. After 22 years of disappointment, I actually believed this time would be different. The wedding invitations went out 2 months before graduation. The same weekend, the same dates. I told myself they'd figure it out. They'd choose me, just once. I was still believing in fairy tales. Graduation morning arrived with California sunshine streaming through my dorm window. I'd barely opened my eyes when my phone buzzed. 7:43 a.m. A text from Mom. "Flight delayed from Sylvia's wedding. So sorry, honey. We'll celebrate when we get back." I stared at the screen, reading it twice. 3 times. The ceremony started at 10. They'd known for months. The wedding had been planned for over a year. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Part of me wanted to type what I'd always typed. "It's okay. I understand. Family first." The words that had kept peace for 22 years. Instead, I wrote, "Of course. Enjoy the rest of the wedding." That was the moment I stopped asking for crumbs and decided to bake my own cake. I sat up in bed, something crystallizing in my chest. Not anger. Something colder, clearer. For the first time in my life, I wasn't going to make excuses for them. I wasn't going to pretend this was okay. My laptop sat open on the desk, the valedictorian speech I'd rehearsed for weeks glowing on the screen. Safe words about academic achievement, future goals, gratitude to professors, words designed to make everyone comfortable. I deleted it all. My fingers moved across the keyboard like they had a mind of their own. New words poured out. Honest words about resilience, about learning to clap for yourself, about the empty chairs that teach you more about love than the filled ones ever could. I wrote about invisible children and the strength that grows in silence. I didn't mention names. I didn't need to. At 9 a.m., I called the graduation venue. "This is Angie Hart, today's valedictorian. I need to confirm that the VIP seating will remain as reserved, even if guests don't arrive." "Of course, Miss Hart. The seats will stay reserved throughout the ceremony." "Perfect. Please place programs on the empty chairs. I want them to look intentional." Next, I texted Grandma Carol. "They're not coming, but I am ready." Her response came immediately. "Then shine, sweetheart. Shine so bright they can see you from wherever they are." I spent the next hour getting ready with methodical precision. Cap positioned perfectly, tassel on the right side, ready to move left. Speech folded neatly in my pocket. Not the safe version, but the true one. In the mirror, I looked different. Older, steadier, like someone who had finally stopped waiting for permission to take up space. The flight records I'd later request would show the truth. They'd booked return flights from the wedding location that made attending my graduation impossible from the start. The delayed flight was just the excuse they'd prepared. But standing there in my graduation gown, I already knew. Some part of me had always known. As I walked across campus toward the ceremony, students and families buzzed with excitement around me. Cameras flashed. Hugs were exchanged. Love was everywhere. Just not mine. But for the first time, that felt like their loss, not mine. As I walked toward that podium, I had no idea that my words were about to reach 12 million people, or that by sunset, my parents would be frantically calling me to fix this mess. Have you ever had that moment where you stopped asking for love and started demanding respect? Drop a comment below, because what Angie did next changed everything. The podium felt solid beneath my hands as I looked out at 10,000 faces. In the VIP section, 2 empty chairs sat like silent witnesses, programs placed carefully on their seats. The California sun caught the white paper, making them glow. I unfolded my speech, the real one, and began. Fellow graduates, families, faculty, today we celebrate not just achievement, but resilience. We celebrate the students who worked double shifts to pay tuition, who studied in empty dorm rooms during holidays, who learned that sometimes the most important lessons come from the most unexpected teachers. My voice grew stronger with each word. Some chairs remain empty not because of distance or circumstance, but because of choice. And sometimes those empty chairs teach us more about love than the filled ones ever could. They teach us that our worth isn't determined by who shows up for us, but by how we show up for ourselves and others. A hush fell over the crowd. Phones appeared, recording. To every student who has ever felt invisible, who has ever celebrated alone, who has ever wondered if their achievements matter when no one witnesses them, you are seen. Your success doesn't need an audience to be real. Your dreams don't need applause to be valid. The applause started slowly, then built like thunder. Students rose to their feet. Parents wiped tears. The standing ovation lasted 3 full minutes. What I didn't know was that Stanford's livestream was broadcasting to 12 million viewers worldwide. Within an hour, clips of my speech were spreading across every social platform. By noon, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Notifications crashed over each other, shares, comments, mentions. The video was everywhere. Empty chairs began trending. Then, show up for your kids. Then, invisible child. The headlines started appearing. Stanford valedictorian's viral speech about empty chairs moves millions. Graduate's message about absent parents sparks national conversation. The speech that made the world cry. At 2 p.m., my phone rang. Mom's contact photo, a family picture where I stood slightly behind everyone else, filled the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then Dad called. Voicemail. Sylvia called. Voicemail. By evening, I had 47 missed calls from my parents and a text thread that looked like panic in digital form. Mom's first voicemail was controlled. Honey, call me back. People are asking questions about why we weren't there. The second was strained. Angie, this is getting out of hand. You need to post something explaining this was a misunderstanding. The third was desperate. Everyone thinks we're terrible parents. You have to fix this. Dad's messages were shorter but equally frantic. Call us back. This looks bad. We need to talk. A reporter from CNN reached out for an interview. I accepted. But with conditions, I would discuss resilience and invisible children, not attack my parents personally. What message do you hope people take from your speech? The reporter asked. That every child deserves to feel seen and valued, that showing up matters, that love is a verb, not just a feeling. Do you have anything to say to parents watching this? I paused, choosing my words carefully. I'd say that your children are watching too. They're learning what love looks like by how you show it. Make sure you're teaching the lesson you want them to learn. The interview aired that night. Social media exploded again. Parents shared their own stories of feeling unseen. Adult children talked about empty chairs at their own milestones. The conversation grew beyond my story into something universal. My phone kept ringing. Mom, Dad, Sylvia. Unknown numbers, probably reporters. I turned it off and sat in the quiet of my dorm room, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. For the first time in 22 years, I felt completely at peace with disappointing them. Because I'd finally stopped disappointing myself. The empty chairs in that VIP section had done exactly what I'd hoped. They'd made the invisible visible. Not just me, but thousands of others who'd been waiting their whole lives to be seen. By morning, the video had 12 million views and counting. My parents were about to learn what it felt like when the whole world was watching. 3 days after the speech went viral, Mom's text arrived like a court summons. Emergency family meeting, tomorrow, 1 p.m. We need to fix this situation immediately. I stared at the message, then typed back, I'll be there. But we're having an honest conversation, not a damage control session. No deflection, no victim blaming, no making this about how it looks to other people. Her response was immediate. Fine, just come. I drove the 4 hours home in silence, my phone recording app ready. I'd learned to document everything. They were waiting in the living room when I arrived. Mom pacing, Dad sitting rigidly on the couch, both looking like defendants awaiting sentencing. The family photos on the mantle seemed to mock us, all those forced smiles hiding years of imbalance. You made us look like monsters. Mom launched in before I'd even sat down. We're not bad parents. We love you. I settled into the armchair across from them, the same spot where I'd shared countless achievements to lukewarm responses. I never called you monsters. I just stopped pretending empty chairs were full. But everyone thinks we abandoned you. Dad's voice cracked. The neighbors, our friends, your Aunt Carol, everyone's asking why we weren't there. Were you there? I asked quietly. The question hung in the air like smoke. We had a family obligation, Mom said, her voice defensive. Sylvia's wedding was planned for the same weekend as my graduation, for over a year. You knew the dates. We thought you didn't need us there, Dad said, his hands fidgeting. You're so independent. You've never needed us like Sylvia does. I leaned forward, my voice steady. Independence isn't a personality trait, Dad. It's a survival skill I learned because dependence on you meant disappointment. The words hit like a physical blow. Mom's face crumpled. Dad's shoulders sagged. We didn't mean... Mom started. Let me show you what you meant. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through years of screenshots. Here's my Harvard acceptance. Your response? Wonderful news. BTW, Sylvia needs help with wedding RSVPs. Here's my research fellowship. Your response. That's nice, honey. Did you see Sylvia's Instagram? I kept scrolling. Here's my valedictorian announcement. You put me on hold to take Sylvia's call about wedding flowers. Each piece of evidence landed like a stone in still water, creating ripples of recognition across their faces. 22 years of this, I continued. Not 1 or 2 incidents. A pattern. Mom was crying now, mascara streaking down her cheeks. We didn't realize. You didn't want to realize. It was easier to tell yourselves I didn't need attention than to give me equal attention. Dad finally spoke, his voice barely a whisper. What do you want from us? Consistency. Not perfection. Consistency. If you say you'll be somewhere, be there. If you can't be there, don't promise you will. Treat my achievements like they matter as much as Sylvia's. That's it. And if we don't? Mom asked. Then you'll keep getting empty chairs, but they won't be accidents anymore. They'll be choices. Mine. The room fell silent except for the tick of the grandfather clock in the corner. Finally, Dad nodded slowly. We can do that. Can you? I asked. Because this isn't about one graduation. This is about 22 years of feeling invisible in my own family. Mom wiped her eyes, smearing mascara further. We'll try. We'll really try. Trying isn't enough anymore, I said gently. Either you show up or you don't. Either my life matters to you or it doesn't. But I'm done making excuses for you. We sat in the weight of that truth, three people finally seeing each other clearly for the first time. 6 months later, my inbox looked like a digital support group. Thousands of messages from people who'd watched that graduation speech and seen their own empty chairs reflected back at them. Your story gave me permission to stop begging for my parents' attention, wrote Sarah from Michigan. I'm 28 and still trying to earn love that should have been free. I typed back, you were never begging. You were just loving people who forgot how to love you back. The messages kept coming. Adult children who'd been overlooked. Parents who recognized themselves in my story and wanted to change. Siblings caught between golden children and invisible ones. Each story was different, but the pain was universal. The ache of feeling unseen by the people who should see you most clearly. That's when I knew the empty chairs had served their purpose. They'd started a conversation that needed to happen. I launched Seen and Heard, a nonprofit connecting overlooked children with mentors who understood their experience. Within 3 months, we had 500 volunteers and a waiting list of kids who just needed someone to show up consistently. My parents, meanwhile, were learning to show up too. It wasn't perfect. 22 years of patterns don't disappear overnight. But it was different. When Harvard's white coat ceremony arrived, the moment I'd officially become a medical student, I sent them the invitation without expectations. Just information. They came. Not only did they come, but they arrived early, sat in the front row, and stayed for the entire reception afterward. Dad took photos. Mom posted them on Facebook with a caption that made me cry. So proud of our daughter, Dr. Angie Hart. She's going to change the world. The relationship we built from that confrontation wasn't the one I'd dreamed of as a child. It was better. Honest, boundary, real. We talked monthly now, not just during crises. They asked about my research, my patients, my life. I told them about my work with invisible children, and they listened without redirecting the conversation. Sylvia and I found our way back to each other, too. She'd been carrying guilt about being the golden child, never realizing the cost of her spotlight. I didn't know, she said during one of our long phone calls. I thought you just didn't care about attention. I cared, I told her. I just learned not to show it. The viral video eventually faded from social media, but its impact rippled outward. Teachers reached out, saying they were watching for invisible students. Parents shared it, promising to do better. Adult children used it to start difficult conversations with their own families. The empty chairs at my graduation weren't the end of my story. They were the beginning of me finally taking up space in my own life. And in doing so, I'd created space for thousands of others to be seen too. If this story touched something in you, I want to hear about it. Comment below about a time you had to choose yourself when others wouldn't choose you. And if you know someone who needs to hear this message, share this video. Sometimes the invisible child in someone's life needs to know they're not alone. Because here's what I learned. Empty chairs don't have to stay empty forever. Sometimes they become invitations for the right people to finally sit down.